what is this false notion of Black woman's undying dedication to the Black race? What is this false notion? I mean, in America is a individualistic like country where people generally move for their own individual best interest. So, like, we live in a capitalistic system where people kind of do what's best for themselves, and then all of a sudden, when we try to blame people, it's like it's all the community's fault. You know what I mean? That's where I think it can kind of get a little bit confusing. But nevertheless, like, who and how did we come to this idea that Black women as a whole are just undyingly loyal to Black men? And this is why I think the conversation can get a little bit disingenuous, because lack of options is not loyalty. I think what oftentimes is not really being talked about is the really, really hard and difficult truth of what it means to be a Black woman in America with a horrible reputation. Like I said, there is no culture, at the very least in America, that looks at marrying into the Black community as a level up. Let's just be honest. You don't see Indian cultures, you don't see Chinese cultures, definitely not white cultures. Like, by and large, a person marrying into a Black family is not seen as a level up. Now, of course, you're going to have, rare examples if it's like, an elite family, or there may be a politician or an actor or something like that. But by and large, if you're talking about culture to culture, when cultures are talking about loyalty, usually it's like, okay, please marry within your culture. And then sometimes the exception may be, or you can marry a white person. That may be like the one exception. You know what I mean? But Black women, unfortunately, by and large, we do not have a great reputation. And other races of men have had access to the collective of Black women, not only since the beginning, quite literally since slavery, if you want to go there, even since, Love versus Virginia. Yet the interracial marriage rate has not significantly gone up. This is not because there are a whole bunch of Black women going around who are turning down Brad, who are turning down, Hispanic men or Asian men, and turning down all these proposals. And there's all these men who are just wanting to be with a Black woman, but we're saying, no, we're not going to accept your engagement. We're not going to accept your wealth. We're not going to accept all of your assets. We're not going to accept your socio-political power. We're not going to do that. We're going to hold out for the fantasy of Black love. That's not happening. That is not happening. What nobody is talking about is the very fact that at the end of the day, there is a divide, and there is quite frankly, there is a huge issue of marriageable Black women in the Black community. And then, like I said, if you have Black men complaining that it's hard to find Black women to marry in their community, they're talking to other races of men. This message is going out. So other men are seeing that and being like, that's a liability. Because again, as a race of women, we have horrible PR. I'm not saying that's all true, but we do. The PR for Black women sucks. I talk about this all the time. So nobody looks at marrying a Black woman as a level up. I'm talking about the collective. And so the truth is, there's just a lot of races of men who just strictly do not want to marry Black women. They will maybe have sex with a Black woman. They may even get them pregnant. You know what I mean? But when it comes to settling down, especially when you're talking about trying to do the hypergamy thing, or you're talking about trying to marry into a particular class, it becomes even more difficult. And this is, to me, I think what's not really being openly talked about is the actual racial dynamics, where it's like, yeah, you will have a select group of men of other ethnicities who would be happy to marry a Black woman if she is lovely, fit, feminine, friendly, all of that. But you also have men who will be like, maybe I would, but there's pressure in my family to not do it. Or if I did marry a Black woman, I could lose my inheritance. Or I'm just not interested in Black women. Like there's all these different things going on. And this, to me, is one of the issues with this conversation. Like, we're not talking about the fact that it's not just about Black women's loyalty to Black men. It's the fact that other races of men have to, with open arms, be willing to accept an entire group of women in. And they've had decades to do so. And yet we have not seen there be a huge increase. This is not because of loyalty. This is not because Black women are turning down all of these proposals from non-Black men. It's partially because, or I think it's a big reason, is these other men aren't necessarily wanting to integrate. They're not. And it's not fun to talk about. It ain't fun to talk about, and it's not, you know, it can shatter sometimes the psychology of women who need this sense of validation from other cultures, from white men, from whatever. It can shatter the sense of, wow, there's other people who don't maybe see me as beautiful, or there's other people who perceive me this way, but that's the truth.